Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar, coming up in the next hour. The Lok Sabha debates Operation Sindoor. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh declares the mission a strategic success. EM Jaishankar emphasises India's new anti-terror doctrine. US President Trump meets UK Prime Minister Starmer in Scotland amid ongoing discussions with European leaders, sets 12-day deadline for Russia on Ukraine. Thailand and Cambodia seal unconditional ceasefire after Malaysia brokered peace talks. France derides EU-US trade deal as an act of submission, even as other EU states back the deal to avert a tariff war. Russia sees it as anti-Russian. Divya Deshmukh makes history as the first Indian woman to win the FIDE World Cup. She becomes the nation's 88th Grandmaster. The second week of the monsoon session of Parliament began with high drama and heightened political activity. After a near washout last week, both houses resumed on Monday, only to witness fresh disruptions. But amid the din, a long-awaited debate on Operation Sindoor finally began in the Lok Sabha, marking a significant moment in India's counter-terrorism policy discourse. The day began with protests from the opposition benches, leading to two adjournments in the Lok Sabha before noon. The House was scheduled to take up a special discussion on Operation Sindoor at 12 p.m. But the debate could only begin post-lunch around 2 p.m. Opening the debate, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh launched a scathing attack on the opposition for, as he put it, raising doubts about the bravery and integrity of the Indian armed forces. Singh outlined the strategic intent and execution of Operation Sindoor, India's targeted response to terror bases operating in Pakistan. He termed it a tactical strike against state-sponsored terrorism and a warning to those harboring anti-India designs.
हमारी सेनाओं द्वारा की गई वेल कोऑर्डिनेटेड स्ट्राइक्स ने 9 टेररिस्ट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर टारगेट्स को प्रिसीजन के साथ सटीकता के साथ हिट किया और इस सैन्य कार्रवाई में एक अनुमान के अनुसार 100 से अधिक आतंकवादी, मैं बहुत संभल कर बोल रहा हूं अध्यक्ष महोदय, हमारी फिगर गलत ना होने पाए, फिगर इससे बहुत अधिक है, 100 से अधिक आतंकवादी, उनके ट्रेनर, उनके प्रशिक्षक, उनके हैंडलर, लश्कर-ए-तोयबा और हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन जैसे आतंकवादी संगठनों से संबंधित थे। ये वही आतंकी संगठन हैं जिन्होंने पाकिस्तान की सेना और आईएसआई का जिन्हें खुला समर्थन प्राप्त है।
Several leaders from the ruling NDA, including BJP's Baijayant Panda, TDP's Lavu Sri Krishna, and JDU's Lalan Singh, echoed the defence minister's sentiments. They accused the previous UPA government of inaction and lauded the precision and political resolve demonstrated through Operation Sindoor. The government has allocated 16 hours for this high-stakes debate. India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, also spoke on the floor of the House on Monday evening. He tore into the opposition accusations on the ceasefire between India and Pakistan and US President Donald Trump's supposed negotiation. Jaishankar apprised the Parliament on India's tactical diplomacy and the extradition of Tahawur Rana and the designation of TRF as a global terror organization. He also clarified that Operation Sindoor was suspended following a request from Pakistan.
I want to make two things very clear, sir. One, at no stage in any conversation with the United States was there any linkage with trade and what was going on. Secondly, there was, please listen. Secondly, there was no call between the Prime Minister and President Trump from the 22nd of April when President Trump called up to convey his sympathy And the 17th of June, when he called up Prime Minister in Canada to explain why he could not meet.
The opposition too brought its battery of speakers. Leading for the Congress party, Gaurav Gogoi opened the opposition's response, with leaders from the TMC, Samajwadi Party and RJD also weighing in. They questioned the government's narrative and demanded greater transparency and strategic accountability. The Lok Sabha has allocated a total of 16 hours for the debate. The House will continue discussions on Operation Sindoor till Tuesday, after which a resolution is expected to be passed. Debyendu Mandal's report for DD India.
Well, in light of the Parliament debate, let's travel back into the recent past to familiarize ourselves with Operation Sindoor. Here's a recap.
In a decisive military and intelligence campaign, India launched Operation Sindoor on May 7 in response to a heinous terrorist attack on April 22 that shook the nation. Pakistan-backed terrorists had raided a village in Pahalgam on April 22. Eyewitnesses revealed that the attackers demanded religious identification before opening fire and killing 26 innocent civilians in an attempt to sow communal unrest and fracture India from within. India's response was precise. The operation targeted 9 verified terror camps along the line of control and deeper inside Pakistani territory, following multi-agency intelligence confirmation. Taken aback, Pakistan unleashed a series of drone and UCAV attacks, targeting critical Indian air bases and infrastructure. Though intense, these attacks were successfully repulsed by Indian Defence Forces. Key religious sites came under attack. The choice of targets clearly indicated an attempt to destabilize India's communal harmony.
A message was sent that we have only engaged the terrorist targets. We would like to put an end to it. However, Pakistani side decided that no, they wanted to, sort of come equal. They engaged our military targets. So in step 2 of the escalation, a very strong message was sent by engaging their military targets in a manner that on 10th of May, there was a message from the military operations, Pakistan, that they would want a ceasefire.
In retaliation, India carried out precise strikes on radar installations near Lahore, crippling enemy surveillance. A total of 11 Pakistani air bases were impacted in what has been seen as the most precise Indian air campaign in recent memory. On May 10th, at 1700 hours Indian Standard Time, Pakistan's DGMO contacted his Indian counterpart in an emergency call and agreed to a full ceasefire across land, air and sea. Even after the ceasefire, unauthorized UAVs and micro-drones continued to intrude into Indian territory. Each one was intercepted without casualties, showcasing India's elevated defense readiness.
So an important consideration was that we should always be on top of the escalation ladder. When we reach our political military objective, we should try and put a stop to it. So a lot of naysayers say, why did we stop now? So war is easy to initiate, but it's very difficult to control. So I would say that was a very masterly stroke that was played to stop the war at an appropriate time.
Operation Sindoor wasn't just retaliation. It marked a new policy direction. By striking both terrorists and their enablers, India challenged the long-standing narrative of separating state from terror actors. Wanted terrorists including Yusuf Azhar, Rauf and Mudassir were neutralized in a major blow to terror networks.
What is important for us in the Quad statement, as also the statement which the Security Council had issued on April 25, is that the perpetrators of terrorism must be held accountable, they must be brought to justice. And that's important because we then have to communicate to the world that what we did during, on 7th May, the objective of Operation Sindoor is that if there are attacks, if there are terrorist attacks, we will act against the perpetrators, the supporters, the financiers, the enablers.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi sent out a clear message. Terror and talks cannot go together. Blood and water cannot flow together. India will not tolerate nuclear blackmail. India's armed forces continue to operate in a state of high alert, signaling an unwavering commitment to national integrity and counter-terrorism. Bureau Report, DD India.
Moving on, the new trade agreement between the United States and the European Union has prompted mixed reactions. Political and economic figures are torn between relief and concern, with some experts, in fact, calling the deal a political humiliation for Europe. Tripti Tripathi reports.
The President of the European...
A fragile sign of relief across Europe, but also deep reservations. Governments and business welcome the EU-US trade deal for preventing a full-blown transatlantic trade war. But many view it as an uneven compromise, one that favors Washington and leaves key European sectors exposed. Italy and Spain welcome the agreement, calling it a step that helped avoid potentially devastating consequences. Germany too called the deal positive but challenging.
The
agreement is certainly challenging in terms of the 15% base tariff, but the good thing about it is that it provides certainty. It is right and important that some sectors have been excluded. For the others, it will mean a need to adapt.
But not everyone is on board. France slammed the deal, calling it a dark day for the Union and accusing the bloc of caving in to the US pressure. Russia joined the criticism, warning of deindustrialization in Europe and an exodus of investment.
Such an approach will lead to the future deindustrialization of Europe, to the flow of investment from Europe to the United States. And, of course, this will be a very heavy blow, first of all, to energy prices, the outflow of investment for European industry and European agriculture.
For many European firms, the mood was cautious, caught between optimism and concern.
This
deal is a blow to our bottom line. We are facing tariff levels that we have never seen before. We expect significant growth losses for our industry.
Public opinion across Europe remained divided. Some citizens supported the deal as a stabilizing force. Others called it a rip-off.
We think we got a good deal from a bad person. I think it's misguided, and I think it's ripping off because it's imposing tariffs that are not supposed to be there. I'm all for free trade.
Looking at the stock market, I think it's looking positive from that perspective, and I think anything that brings some stability with President Trump is got to be a good thing.
Under the agreement, European Union will face 15% tariff on most export to the US, while American exporters gain broader access to the European markets. While the deal may have avoided an immediate crisis, its long-term impact on trade, industry, and politics remains to be seen. With the agency's input, Tripti Tripathi's report, DD India.
Well, the EU and the US now have a trade deal, as we can see, but most European exports are going to face a 15% tariff in the United States. And joining us from Berlin with more on the agreement and how it is being received is the Deutsche Welle correspondent Chipondo Chimbelu. Chipondo, what can you tell us about the details of the tariff deal?
Thanks for having me. Well, this deal does end a months-long transatlantic trade standoff. European exports, of course, will now face 50% tariffs, so the EU will be able to avoid higher tariffs of 30% on all EU goods, which US President Trump had threatened at the end of May. Now, for most European exports, tariffs will rise by 5% from the 10% reciprocal tariffs that have been in place since April. But cars and car parts will have, which have been facing higher tariffs of 25%, will now have lower tariffs. And that is some good news for the auto industry because they at least won't be facing higher tariffs. Now, steel and aluminum, on the other hand, will continue to face the 50% tariff rate. Pharmaceuticals are excluded from the tariff deal, but the trade deal, of course, is not quite done and dusted because all EU member states will need to approve it.
Well, Chipondo, also, let's take a look at the bigger picture. How will, the deal affect the European economy?
The deal does bring back some stability to the markets. That is perhaps why one German newspaper called it damage control. But the damage will still be there. For most sectors, tariffs are higher. And that means that overall trade between the world's two largest trade partners will be more expensive. And that isn't good news for people on both ends of the Atlantic. And it is also, of course, worth considering that American exports to the EU face zero tariffs. Now, overall, the European Union doesn't come out looking like a winner. Many are also pointing to the UK, which they say was able to get a better deal. Westminster was able to negotiate a deal that kept the 10% reciprocal tariffs in place. So that is, of course, 5 percentage points lower than the tariff rate on European exports. That is also why many people do believe that the EU did get a short end of the deal. And now, of course, we will have to wait to see whether the EU member states will approve this trade deal.
Chipunda, thank you very much for being with us. Now, still to come here on DD India News Hour. Russia and North Korea resume first commercial flights between their capitals in decades. Heavy rains intensify around Beijing and surrounding areas. 41 rivers across the country are flooded. And the US and China officials meet in Stockholm for trade talks.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the US President Donald Trump met in Scotland on Monday. The mini-summit at Turnberry was intended primarily to focus on the continuing problem of steel tariffs imposed by President Trump and other aspects of the trade deal that the two had signed last month. On the other hand, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza was also on the agenda, and the leaders also discussed trade and Russia's conflict in Ukraine. Well, the US President Donald Trump on Monday increased pressure on Russia to end its conflict in Ukraine, saying that he was setting now a new deadline of 10 to 12 days for Moscow to make progress on doing so. Trump, who is holding meetings in Scotland, said earlier on Monday that he was going to shorten the 50-day deadline that he had set because of frustration with President Vladimir Putin.
We thought we had that settled numerous times, and then President Putin goes out and starts launching rockets into some city like Kiev and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or whatever. You have bodies lying all over the street. And I say that's not the way to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in President Putin. Very disappointed in him. So we're going to have to look, and I'm going to reduce that 50 days that I gave him to a lesser number because I think I already know the answer what's going to happen.
And President Trump also said that the United States will set up food centers in Gaza to help avert a deepening hunger crisis in the Palestinian territory.
We're going to set up food centers and where the people can walk in and no boundaries. We're not going to have fences and, you know, they can't, they see the food from 30 you would say, yards away, and they see the food. It's all there, but nobody's at it because they have fences set up that nobody can even get it. It's crazy what's going on over there.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu denied the criticism, saying that there is no starvation in Gaza, as Israel has allowed aid throughout the war. He was speaking at a Christian conference in Jerusalem.
But the main thing that I want to stress is the importance of winning the battle for truth. And that is a battle that we fought even as we speak now. Israel is presented as though we are applying a campaign of starvation in Gaza. What a bold-faced lie. There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza. We enable humanitarian aid throughout the duration of the war, to enter Gaza. Otherwise, there would be no Gazans. And what has interdicted the supply of humanitarian aid is one force, Hamas. Again, the reversal of truth. Hamas robs, steals this humanitarian aid, and then accuses Israel of not supplying it.
The Jordanian military planes on Monday, they carried out aid drops into Gaza. And as per the Jordanian armed forces, the aid consisted of food supplies, canned goods, as well as baby formula, along with canned sugar and rice as well. The aid packages were loaded inside military aircraft at King Abdullah II Air Base. They were dropped via parachute over Gaza. With over a month's delay, the conference to promote the recognition of the Palestinian state, co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia, held at the UN headquarters on Monday. And France told the UN conference that there is no alternative to a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians. The French Foreign Minister, Barrot, said that only a political two-state solution will help respond to the legitimate aspirations of Israelis and Palestinians.
Seule une solution politique à deux États.
Only a political two-state solution will help respond to the legitimate aspirations of Israelis and Palestinians to live in peace and security. There is no alternative.
In a major shift in Ukraine's military arsenal, as indigenously produced UAR-15 assault rifle is set to replace the Soviet-era AK-74 rifles. Military experts and soldiers have praised the UAR-15 for its practicality, accuracy and adaptability to modern warfare conditions. A soldier noted that the UAR-15 is more handy, lighter, and more user-friendly than the Kalashnikov. Now, this shift aligns with Ukraine's push to adopt NATO standard weaponry. The UAR-15 rifle is nearly entirely produced domestically, with all major components manufactured within Ukraine, except for the barrels, which are imported from the United States. A Russian passenger jet, it landed at Pyongyang's international airport on Monday, as the two countries resumed the first commercial flights between their capitals in decades. Russia and North Korea have pulled closer in the last year, with Pyongyang sending weapons and troops to aid Moscow's conflict with Ukraine, likely in exchange for technical assistance. Russia previously announced the Moscow-Pyongyang route would be serviced once per month. After 5 days of intense border clashes that left dozens dead and forced thousands to flee, Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to an unconditional ceasefire. The breakthrough came during Malaysia-hosted talks in Putrajaya, with the Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim playing a key role in brokering peace between the two Southeast Asian nations. Mohammed Absarul Hassan reports.
In a symbolic gesture to mark the end of their border clashes, the leaders of Thailand and Cambodia shook hands, brought together by Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. Both the Southeast Asian countries agreed to an unconditional ceasefire on Monday. The talks were held in Malaysia, where both the countries agreed to halt hostilities effective midnight on the 28th of July. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim hosted the Prime Ministers of both the nations in Putrajaya.
Both Cambodia and Thailand reached a common understanding as follows. 1. An immediate and unconditional ceasefire with effect from 24 hours local time, midnight, on 28th July 2025, tonight. This is a vital first step towards a de-escalation and the restoration of peace and security.
Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet expressed hope for renewed dialogue and lasting peace, while Thailand's acting Prime Minister Phumtham Vechayachai affirmed both sides' commitment to uphold the ceasefire in good faith.
We hope that the solutions that Prime Minister Anwar just announced will set a condition for moving forward for our bilateral discussion to return to normalcy of the relationship and as a foundation for future de-escalation of forces.
We agree to a ceasefire with assurance myself that it will be carried out successfully in good faith by both sides.
The 5 days of combat along their jungle-clad frontier has killed at least 36 people. Nearly 300,000 others have fled as the two sides exchanged artillery fire, rockets and gunshots in a battle over a long-disputed area that is home to a scattering of ancient temples. The flare-up was the deadliest since sporadic violence between 2008 and 2011 over the territory, which is claimed by both sides due to a vague demarcation made by Cambodia's French colonial administrators in 1907. Mohammad Afsarul Hassan's report, DD India.
And Chinese and US economic officials, they met for talks in Stockholm on Monday, with Beijing saying that it wanted to see reciprocity in its trade with the United States. The Swedish Prime Minister's office confirmed the talks, which are expected to last 2 days. These talks are underway is what was confirmed. And the talks, they came a day after the US President Donald Trump reached a deal that will see imports from the European Union taxed at 15%. And the clock is now ticking for many other countries to reach deals or to face higher US tariffs. Beijing said that they hoped the two sides could hold talks in the spirit of mutual respect and reciprocity. Torrential rains hit Beijing and other region areas, the regions around Beijing on Monday. They triggered flash floods and landslides that forced the evacuation of 4,400 people. Authorities issued the city's highest level of alert, which is a flood alert, with warning of worsening conditions overnight. Forecasts predicted over 6 inches of rain in 6 hours, with some areas possibly receiving double of that. Iran on Monday said that its military capabilities were not up for negotiation after France called for a comprehensive deal with Tehran that covers its missile program. In a media briefing, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Bakhaki has said that regarding matters related to defense capabilities of Iran, there will absolutely be no discussion. Iran generally refers to all military activities, including its ballistic missile program, as defensive.
Regarding our defensive capabilities, I believe that Islamic Republic of Iran and the Iranian nation are today even more determined than they were a month ago to safeguard all their assets, including their means of defense against foreign aggression and hostility. Regarding matters related to our defense capabilities, there will absolutely be no discussion.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll get an expert opinion because of the Parliament debate on Operation Sindoor. We'll talk about Operation Sindoor. And 3 terrorists are killed in Jammu and Kashmir.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of the main news. The Lok Sabha debates Operation Sindoor. The Defence Minister Rajnath Singh declares the mission a strategic success. EAM Jaishankar emphasizes that India has a new anti-terror doctrine. US President Trump meets the UK Prime Minister Starmer in Scotland. This is amid ongoing discussions with European leaders, and he sets a 12-day deadline for Russia on Ukraine. Thailand and Cambodia seal an unconditional ceasefire after Malaysia brokered peace talks. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarnney, retired, former Director General of Infantry, is now with us. Thank you very much, General Kulkarnney. How does Operation Sindoor reflect a shift in India's military doctrine?
Thank you, Mark. I think first and foremost, we mean business. And we see a terror as an act of war. And we intend, not just intend, we will react. And therefore, we are not anymore in the reaction mode. We will act if Pakistan does not mend its way. So Operation Sindoor clearly has shown the way that should Pakistan be involved in acts of terrorism, which it is, it will be retaliated and retaliated strongly. As during Operation Sindoor, we noticed that 9 of the terrorist locations of Pakistan had been hit across Punjab, and therefore, and then the counter action by Pakistani led to 11 of the air bases being hit very hard. So that's an indication that we have zero tolerance for terror, and in fact, India will now act. Any act of terror would be seen as an act of war, and India will act. And therefore, Operation Sindoor is in force. It has not been terminated. I sincerely hope Pakistan takes that as a clear message that it must not be using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Should it continue to do so, it will be hit hard.
So you say the operation has paused, and so we should look at it from that point of view. But it also was a tri-services coordinated strike. What does this say then about India's operational readiness, also precision warfare capabilities?
See, we have graduated to a technological warfare. We have graduated almost towards, say, a non-contact warfare. It could have with a kinetic effect. And therefore, the synergy, since the CDS is in place, we find the synergy between the 3 services, the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy, in a manner that has led to Operation Sindoor a grand success, which led to less than 4 days, that is less than 96 hours, Pakistan almost came on the knees requesting for a ceasefire. Indicative that the synergy in operations, a complete coordinated operation, which led to what had happened to Pakistan. Use of BrahMos, use of missiles, counter-drone measures in place. You found that entire thing and the entire air defense of Pakistan, which was and more or less coordinated by China, it pierced it and penetrated so deep that it led to the 9 of the terrorist locations being hit hard, in which you found Masood Azhar almost screaming and crying, I wish he had died. And therefore, that kind of an indication that Pakistan terrorists have been hit very hard. And it also shows that Pakistan was deeply involved, because the funerals of these terrorists and their families led to all these top-notch dignitaries from Pakistan attending the funerals, indicating the deep hand-in-glove action by, and they seem to be almost the proxies of the Pakistani state, the Pakistani army. All of them are deeply involved. And therefore, the clear warning that should Pakistan indulge in this kind of a terror activity, India will retaliate and will retaliate very hard. And with it came the Indus Water Treaty, which also led to Pakistan in a, it has almost put Pakistan in a quandary. Not that the water has been stopped totally, but the complete control of water has been denied and kept within the hands of India, leading to Pakistan not knowing when the water will be released, when it will be stopped. Of course, it causes problems, because irrespective of the Indus Water Treaty, where 80% of the water went to Pakistan, Pakistan didn't seem to mend its ways. And despite all the good relations wanting by India, Pakistan still continued to use terrorism as an instrument of state policy. And therefore, the revision of the Indus Water Treaty has come up for consultation.
And given what you're saying, General Kulkarnney, India also showed restraint, isn't it? India only targeted the terror sites. It avoided real escalation. How do you assess India's ability to achieve tactical goals then, while maintaining, some sort of regional strategic balance?
There was no collateral damage. You notice in the entire 4 days that we did, if we were to hit the terrorist location, it was there. The terrorist locations, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hizbul Mujahideen, they were only hit. Rest, everything was left, even though their own service headquarters were so close to those terrorist locations. After Pakistan retaliated and hit some of our civilian locations, we tried to hit 11 of their air bases. And again, it was military targets that were targeted. It is very clear the kind of precision we have developed through satellites, through our own computing technologies, leads to this kind of a total, I would say, technological change. And this revolution in the warfare that has taken place gives a feeling, even it shook the entire world, that India could orchestrate a complete destruction of the terror network in Pakistan with so much of precision that nothing, no collateral damage was done, but a message was loud and clear. That is what resulted in it, Pakistan surrendering in 4 days and a ceasefire which led to after that. A lot of times, why wasn't it taken beyond it? Well, the aim was only to achieve a political aim and a military aim. Both of them achieved, the ceasefire was accepted, what was asked for by Pakistan.
Finally, General Kulkarnney, the debate is on in Parliament, and we are seeing, the opposition and the government, debating this issue. Do you see any lessons that should be drawn from this operation for future missions? And if you can also reflect, if you've listened to some of the speeches in Parliament.
It's very important, Mark. There should be unity within the country. When it comes to the security of the country, all of us must be on the same page. You cannot start doubting as to, have you done this, have you done that, why did you do this, why did you do that? All that, I think, was things which don't, it leads to bad taste. After all, astounding victory, the question is something which even helps the enemy to see that, well, their house is divided. We must stand united when it comes to matters of security and national interest. Of course, we've had delegations go, which was an all-party delegation. All of them have gone abroad. All of them have heard how everybody supported Operation Sindoor.
General Kulkarnney, I need to stop you there. Thank you very much for joining us. We seem to be getting in some live footage. Let's go across now. My producer tells me this is Owaisi speaking in Parliament.
आप नहीं कहें, और मैडम आप जानते हैं कि रक्षा मंत्री ने कहा कि स्विफ्ट एंड प्रोपोर्शनेट, तो फिर जो इंडोनेशिया मिलिट्री अटैचे ने कहा कि हमको कहा गया मत मारो, हम सेल्फ डिफेंस में भी नहीं मार सकते थे पाकिस्तान को। और अगर आप ट्रम्प के बयान को गलत कह रहे हैं कि 5 एयरक्राफ्ट नहीं गिरे, मैं यकीन करता हूं आपकी बात का। आप हमारे पायलट्स को कमेंट करिए ना, हमारे पायलट्स को कमेंट करिए कि हम अपने पायलट्स की तारीफ करते हैं, आप वो भी नहीं करना चाहते। मैं हुकूमत से जानना चाहता हूं मैडम कि क्या फ्रांस ने हमको सोर्स कोड नहीं दिया जिसकी वजह से हमारे एयरक्राफ्ट को क्या नुकसान हुआ? अब मुस्तकबिल में आप हथियार खरीदेंगे तो क्या आप सोर्स कोड हासिल करेंगे? और मैडम मैं आपको बताना चाह रहा हूं, मेरे सवाल का जवाब हुकूमत दे। हमारे पास सैंक्शन जो स्क्वाड्रन है 42 है, 60 साल के बाद सिर्फ 29 काम कर रहे हैं। पाकिस्तान के पास 25 हैं, चीन के पास 50 से ज्यादा हैं। 11 साल से आप सरकार में हैं, सबमरीन नहीं है, थर्ड एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर कहां पर है आप बताइए। और मैडम FATF में लाना पड़ेगा आपको। अगर आप विश्व गुरु हैं तो हम आपको चैलेंज कर रहे हैं, आप G7 के कंट्रीज को, GCC को और चचा सैम को राजी कराइए कि पाकिस्तान को, मैडम खत्म कर रहा हूं, FATF में दोबारा लाया जाए। मैडम ऑल पार्टी मीटिंग हुई, देखिए कितना कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन है केंद्र सरकार में और स्टेट सरकार में। ऑल पार्टी मीटिंग में मैं था, केंद्र सरकार ने कहा कि नहीं, बैसारन मिडोस पर तो कोई जा ही नहीं सकता, जून से पहले इजाजत लेना पड़ेगा। बाद में हमको मालूम हुआ कि साल भर खुला रहता मिडोस सिवाय बारिश और स्नो के। ये कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन है केंद्र सरकार में। वहां पे मैं हुकूमत से मुतालबा करता हूं मैडम आपके जरिए से कि कौमी सिक्योरिटी को, नेशनल सिक्योरिटी को खारिजा पॉलिसी को, फॉरेन पॉलिसी को राजनीति का मुद्दा मत बनाइए, राजनीति का मुद्दा मत बनाइए। ये हमारे मुल्क में मुफाद होगा, हमारे मुल्क के इत्तेहाद और एकजुटती को आप एक वोट का जरिया मत बनाइए। और मैं एक आखिरी
Well, that was Asaud Owaisi, who represents Hyderabad in Parliament. He was speaking in Parliament, in fact, asking the government to take stronger measures against terrorism and against Pakistan, which sponsors terrorism. Moving on to our next story. 3 terrorists have been neutralized in an encounter that broke out in the upper reaches of Harwan area in central Kashmir's Srinagar district. Security forces launched a cordon and search operation in the forested Lidwas area. Following specific intelligence inputs, contact with terrorists was established this morning, leading to a gunfight. In a post on social media platform X, Chinar Corps of the Indian Army, they confirmed the development, stating that Operation Mahadev, contact established in general area of Lidwas. Operation is in progress. India's Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia for Communications led a comprehensive strategy session with the top BSNL officials, assessing the state-run telecom operators' operational performance and regional challenges. The meeting was attended by the Minister of State for Communications, Pemasani Chandra Shekhar, and also senior DOT officials. It aimed to realign BSNL's strategic direction with the government's digital growth vision. Scindia stressed on the need to accelerate infrastructure rollout, improve network quality, and deliver better services to citizens. The discussions reinforced BSNL's revenue-first focus and also underlined accountability at all levels. BSNL's modernization efforts were at the heart of the talks, with emphasis on better customer service, streamlined operations, and greater efficiency across business units. Let's take a look at other stories making news from around the world. Thousands of activists held a protest along Manila streets. This is to coincide with the State of the Nation address by the Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos. Now, the protesters, they held a march criticizing Marcos's government for failing to improve the economy. Final preparations were underway in Rome's Tor Vergata on Monday, where over 500,000 young Catholics from 146 countries will attend the 2 biggest events of the upcoming Youth Jubilee. The Youth Jubilee events will take place from July 29 to August 3 and include 2 key moments with Pope Leo XIV, leading evening vigil and also Saturday. That's going to happen on Saturday, and the morning mass on Sunday. Police and rescue officers cordoned off the food market in Bangkok's Bang Sui area. It's a district after gunmen there had opened fire inside a bazaar on Monday. The attacker killed 5 security guards and wounded 1 other person before taking his own life. The police are investigating the motive behind the attack. Still to come here on DD Indian Newshour. The S&P and Nasdaq open at record highs because of the US-EU deal optimism. Well, we'll have a discussion with an expert on India's dominance on the 64 squares. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq opened at record highs on Monday as a US-EU trade agreement boosted investor sentiment. It also kick-started a pivotal week featuring mega cap earnings, a Federal Reserve meeting, as well as the looming US tariff deadline. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average had risen 45 points. The S&P 500 had risen 9 points, so slightly positive, while the Nasdaq Composite also rose about 68 points. The European market also had opened on a positive note with a 4-month high, but it dived sharply. So Frankfurt, along with Paris, dipped, while London, that is outside the EU, also receded. Volkswagen, BMW and Porsche, they all shed more than 3%. This is because of the implications of high tariffs on their exports to the United States. You're watching DD India Newshour. Let's get you the sports news now. And Indian chess has reached another milestone. The 19-year-old Divya Deshmukh won the FIDE Women's Chess World Cup in Georgia on Monday. Divya became the first Indian woman to win the Chess World Cup. She defeated the Indian Grandmaster Koneru Hampi in an All-India final. India's Divya Deshmukh scripted history in Georgia by becoming the first Indian woman to win the FIDE Women's World Cup chess title. In an All-India final, the 19-year-old Divya defeated compatriot Koneru Hampi in the tiebreaker round. Entering the tournament as the 15th seed, Divya's incredible run saw her overcome some of the world's strongest players, culminating in a high-pressure final against one of India's most experienced and decorated champions. After 2 drawn classical games, the match moved to the rapid tiebreaks. The first rapid game was drawn, but Divya won the second game with the black pieces to seal the victory. 38-year-old Hampi, under intense time pressure in the endgame, faltered with a series of critical errors. Divya capitalized decisively, converting the advantage into a stunning victory to clinch the title. This win also earned her the Grandmaster title. At just 19, Divya now becomes India's 88th Grandmaster and only the 4th Indian woman to earn this prestigious title, marking a historic moment for Indian chess. President Draupadi Murmu congratulated Divya Deshmukh, saying the youngster's achievement underlines the abundance of talent in the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also congratulated Divya and said it was a historic final featuring 2 outstanding Indian players. Divya's journey is particularly inspiring as she entered the tournament without being among the favourites, but consistently outplayed higher-ranked opponents with fearless attacking play and deep penetration. Her performance reflects a new generation of Indian chess talent rising on the global stage. This victory is a defining moment in Divya's young career and a proud occasion for Indian chess. Sports Desk, DD India. Well, we are joined by one of the early stalwarts of India's chess journey, who won 7 national titles and was the first Indian to win a Grandmaster norm, eventually becoming India's 3rd Grandmaster, Pravin Tipse. Thank you very much, Pravin sir, for being with us. Now, which is bigger for her? Her becoming the 88th Grandmaster or becoming the first Indian woman to win the World Cup?
Well, I think winning the World Cup is something really very great. In fact, very few Indians, I think Koneru Hampi was the only one who had come closer to winning this championship. Also, what this World Cup means to Divya. For example, she has qualified to the Candidates tournament to be held next year. And Candidates is a World Championship qualifier event. And that's the best 8 players in the world, except the world champion, play these tournaments to decide the challenger who would challenge the world champion to the world championship match. So this is a step for Divya to play the Candidates tournament, and she wins the Candidates tournaments. She becomes a world championship challenger, and she could be the women's world champion in 2026. So I think that is something much more important than becoming a Grandmaster, I think.
Okay, but you know, what is her strength as a player, and what's next for her, you think? She's now got a full Grandmaster, so she'd probably play a lot more open tournaments, would you think?
Yes, I think she'll get more invitations. That's more important, because lady players do get invitations if they are men's Grandmasters. So I think she'll get many more invitations, and with good playing against stronger players. So what's most important now is that, okay, her strength is probably the rating doesn't show her strength, because about a year back when she won the gold medal in the Olympiad, individual gold medal, I had predicted that she could be a world champion in women's chess, and perhaps I thought it could be 2028, but apparently it could be 2026 as well. The progress is so rapid. Her main strength is not necessarily like Humpy's accuracy. Like Humpy, for example, is famous for her accurate play, and today she faltered, of course, but otherwise Humpy is very accurate. Divya, on the other hand, always tries to create chances. I mean, she doesn't really mind getting into a bad position as long as there's the opportunity to defeat the opponent. And she takes it more in a spirit of one-to-one combat. And okay, my position is bad, doesn't matter. I'll make it good, and I'm going to try to beat my opponent. So that's a very practical sense. She has a lot of presence of mind is very great. So she makes important decisions fearlessly. I think fearless play is very important in sports. And she is really fearless. She changes the decision. Things start going wrong. She's still able to recover, and she says, "Okay, what has happened has happened, and now what next?" So this was an ability, I think, that was there in young Vishwanathan Anand. I must say that something went wrong. They would always be thinking, "Okay, what's gone is gone, and now I have to do what is left here." So that sort of adaptability, I think, is most important because. She defeated 2 Chinese players who were so strong. I mean, Zhu Zainer has been the world champion and 3 times challenger.
So that's clear. Now, there was the Netflix series called The Queen's Gambit, and we see that in that series there was a woman, a prodigy, and she was pitted against the world champion who was seen as a Russian then, because that was a Cold War era. But do you see Divya giving her male counterparts a run for their money? After all, she is part of that same category of players like, Gukesh, Pragnananda, Erigaisi, Vaishali, Nihal Sareen, you name them, they're all there.
Well, I think somewhere the times have changed in the sense that the more time you put every day into work or into study, that is more important. So there was a time when Kulkarnney was an Indian team, but that way if you look at women's chess internationally today, there are no women players in top 150. So and among juniors, I think among top 200, there are no lady players. So it becomes very difficult for women to compete with men because men are in a position to study maybe 10 hours, 11 hours, 20 hours. I don't know, women are not able to study that hard. And you see the gap between men and women has actually widened in last 10 years with the as the computers, just playing engines have started playing better. Somehow the gap between men and women has actually increased. So somewhere it may not be very easy to take on to the counterparts in the men's section, in the open section. But of course, if you look at the women's section, though she was seated 15th, she was probably the best player in the tournament from the quality of play. So we'll not at the moment think of challenging Gukesh or Pragnanand, but at the moment we should try to become women's world champion. And then, of course, once you have achieved that, then you go for bigger things.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Pravin Tipse, India's 3rd Grandmaster. Thank you for being with us. Moving on to our next story, England, in fact, have added the fast-bowling all-rounder Jamie Overton to their squad for the decisive 5th test against India at the Oval this week. The return of the paceman is the only change to the group from the 4th test, where India escaped with a draw after batting for 5 sessions and 143 overs. Well, captain of England, Ben Stokes, has hinted that fresh legs might be needed among the bowlers for the 5th and final test, which starts on Thursday. Overton, who won his only test cap in 2022, joins the fellow seamers Gus Atkinson and Josh Tongue in the 15-man squad, pushing for a spot in the final 11. England are still leading the 5-match series 2-1. In Nepal's drought-stricken Madhya Pradesh, desperation is blending with devotion. Over 400 farmers gathered on Monday of the Shravan month at the sacred Dhanusha Dham. This is a temple. They offered milk into the stream there, which is an age-old ritual, believed to be invoking rain and also to end the dry spells. The region is facing a severe water crisis and rainfall has eluded Madhesh, and this is bad for them. In July, paddy plantations have come to a standstill. So recognizing this growing crisis, the provincial government there has declared Madhesh a droughted zone. Nepal also observed on Monday the holy Shravan month with a massive influx of Shiva devotees at the iconic Pashupatinath temple in Kathmandu. The UNESCO World Heritage Site is a key center for Shaivism and Tantric traditions. It saw thousands offering the water, the Rudraksh malas to the Shivling, and also, seeking divine blessings. Several religious groups held special prayers across the temple complex. Devotees from Nepal, India and beyond gathered to mark this auspicious day with faith and fervor. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.